Hello Tanks and Tankettes, and welcome back to World of Tanks and a viewer replay courtesy of Heitowski here in the M4 Sherman, a derp M4 Sherman. Now Heitowski's actually been on the channel before, and normally I like to make an effort to not like just show replays from the same people over and over again. I know I've got the Patreon supporter videos, but those are a separate thing. But of the random replays I pick out from my replays portal, the link for which you can find below, by the way, that's how you send replays to me these days. And, well, if it's an older one that you can't upload, you can always still use the old replays email, which I mostly use for warships. Anyway, that's all, you know, a complete aside. But yeah, the last game of Heitowski's that I did put up, in fact the only game that I've had on the channel previously, was back in 2014, so I think it's probably fair enough, you'll agree, that I show another of his at this point. And also, it's just nice to see somebody that's been watching the channel for that long. I know there are some of you out there that have been watching from even the very start, back when I was this just awkward, fumbling, weird pseudo-Scotsman who turned up on Circon's stream and who got bugged by a bunch of people to try out doing the YouTube thing, because I guess they thought it would be amusing to hear me stumble my way through doing replays. And of course, obviously, I've improved vastly since then in the last couple of years, and I no longer ever make any derpy mistakes or fumble my words or anything like that. No. Anyway, so, talking of derps, yes, this is the derp Sherman, and Heitowski, interestingly, only has HE. He's also got 3 gun marks, and I suspect probably a very good crew. Now, the previous time I showed a game of his, it was the Chinese Tier 7, the T-34-1, so I know for a fact he's got higher tier tanks, and just the fact that it's 3 gun marks, yeah, it's a fairly reasonable guess that he just plays this for fun, basically, and I would think being able to do things like that, yeah, I mean, sometimes you just need a tank that you enjoy that's a good stress relief tank, because occasionally the teams do like to troll you. I mean, that's even true in warships. There's a couple of warships in particular that I keep, things like the Fuso, where it's just, you know, I play them for fun because sometimes you get 6 or 7 losses in a row and it gets pretty frustrating, so you just want to kick back and relax. So, he's, you know, a good player, he's probably got a good crew, good equipment, and he's got the 3 gun marks, so I don't know how many battles that will have taken him, but I would assume he's probably got more than a few battles in this machine. But the fact that it's pure HE suggests that he's not just out to seal club. I mean, if you can do things like hit flak buses, then it's glorious, or, you know, Hellcats, T-67s. There are plenty of easily derpable machines around, but there are also plenty of machines that are a bit tougher to do any significant damage to, and there's actually 3 of them on the enemy team in the form of 3 KV-1s. Now, their own heavies and a couple of other tanks went to the town. Almost the entire enemy team also went to the town, because they basically just ignored the 890 line, and so unfortunately they got overrun, or his own team unfortunately got overrun. And there was a bit of an armour imbalance in that the enemy team had the 3 KV-1s and his own team had BDRs, one of which was severely stock, which doesn't help. So they pretty much just got annihilated. Some of them did do some damage, 2 of them got kills, but as for the rest, well, there are going to be more than a few 0 damage players on this team. So they're now in almost a defensive position near the enemy cap, and this is some good terrain to use here. Both himself and the Crusader have got pretty good gun depression, but of course with this gun, and oh hello, that's a, oh okay, that's a derp Panzer IV. Yeah, with this gun you need the time to aim, and of course the shells take a while to get there, so it's not the best for making snapshots. Now that Panzer IV shell, by the way, it's a really good thing that he turned his tank in that direction, because if he'd caught that in the side, in the rear, it could have ended him. It could easily have ended him, and instead, although he took some damage, although his driver is out for the time being, I'm not sure why he hasn't actually healed it already, Maybe he just hasn't noticed. This is still an okay position for now. It's just he can't afford to take too many risks from this point forwards, because potentially he could be a one-shot for several of the enemy team. Now the Crusader with him sat at the top of the crest there. The top of the crest, you know what I mean, for just a little too long, so he unfortunately has died. Haitowski at least does have the backing of his own T-67 and flak bus though, so the enemy team can't just rush him. I mean, they could try, they might even kill him in the process, but they would also take significant damage in the process. So he has another little peek. He knows there's a KV-1 all the way back there, which is something of a concern. And he also spots this T-34 rushing forwards. But that's the point where his tank destroyer allies take care of him. Now, that KV-1 is annoying because it means he can't use the side of the hill that he wants to. It's forced him to actually back up, in fact, into a position where the KV-1s near the base could shoot him in the back. But fortunately, they are dealing with 3 of his allies, so they're ignoring him for the time being. This KV-1 as well does not seem to be using the top gun, so he actually gets a bounce there for 110. That's got to be a 76mm. That's not the top 85mm, definitely. So that's that dealt with. He can once more get back to a more favourable position. Once again, picks up the Panzer IV. Maybe he can... a bit risky because he was pre-aimed, but they both derp their shells into the ground, so never mind, doesn't really matter. So now he can, oh hello, turn his attention back to the KV-1. Well, one of the KV-1s anyway. Now, that guy appears to be firing HE at him, just based on the velocity of those shells. As you can see, Haitowski himself is having a hard time doing significant damage, but he doesn't need to for this last shot. Now the KV-1s actually had some quite nice defensible position there. There was one that was there from the beginning, because of course the enemy team, having disposed of Haitowski's teammates in the town, then all turned around and came back. And as you saw, the disadvantage of this gun is that although you can sometimes get shots like on that flak bus, if you're then having to deal with a hull down KV-1, it's rather less effective. You're going to be doing only tiny bits of damage at a time. But with his good crew, I suspect I mean, maybe brothers in arms, I don't know, but I suspect he does have at least a couple of crew skills. He's got a good rate of fire on this thing. Obviously, he's going to have the gun rammer as well. So he's been just steadily pumping out the shots to the point where he's only got 13 shells left now. So the T-67's moved in against the Panzer IV, nearly gets derped to death himself. There was a serious risk that he might do. And I think Haitowski maybe could have moved up a bit sooner, but he was focused more on the KV-1s and obviously just took a moment to look around, realised the T-67 might be in danger, despite being full health, and moved to help. But as it was, the T-67 survived, thanks to the grace of RNGesus, and so that just leaves this last KV-1. So definitely no possibility for Radley Walters, but, you know, he might get another kill. And there it is! Yeah, that was an engine deck penetration, wasn't it? That shell just curved in from above beautifully and went right through that KV-1's engine deck. So that was the last 380 odd damage, and that ended the game. So 2,266 damage done, over 1,400 assistance damage, I think mostly spotting, if not all spotting, and that was easily enough to put him at the top of the team. 7 kills, 1,700 base XP when top tier. That's really good. That's exceptionally good for being top tier. It didn't help that 5 members of his team did literally 0 damage. I suspect the BDR that did 0 damage was the stock BDR, and the KV-1S just drove out over the open and got knocked out before anybody else, but at least some of the people in the town had done some damage. I mean, the Churchill 3 was actually reasonably high on the list, and the other BDR had about the same amount of damage as well. So, yeah, that was okay. You know, it's not like the rest of his team weren't doing nothing, although a third of his team did do nothing, effectively. But in the end, just the rate of fire and the fact that he was in that good position where he could basically peek out, use his gun depression, get the shells off, and then pull back into cover as need be. backed up by those tank destroyers. Those made his position a lot more secure than it would have been otherwise. Yeah, he was able to use that, and they dealt with that returning enemy team very nicely. So that could potentially have gone very wrong with that big mass of enemy tanks coming back. But they just... his team, and it wasn't just him, you know, the M7 and the M4, although they didn't do a lot of damage, and the Crusader and was it there was something else up there as well. Just the fact that they were there distracting the other KV-1s was valuable even in of itself. But they were all just in positions such that the enemy team then could not deal with them in a cohesive way. So it looked dicey, but they held their ground. They were actually all in good positions, and Haitowski in particular was able to do a lot of damage and kill a lot of tanks. So that was a very good game, and I suspect Haitowski's experience in the M4 probably helped him out a little bit as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this derpy replay, and if you did, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can sub to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.